Emergency call. A 911 dispatcher receives an unexpected call from a young child. The voice on the other end is small and frightened, a 4-year-old who can barely explain what's happening. Please help. I'm alone. It's so dark. Mommy and daddy are gone. The dispatcher tries to calm the child, asking for their name and location. The child struggles to answer, but manages to say they are inside a big old house. As the dispatcher keeps the child talking, a deep sense of urgency builds. Something is very wrong. The child doesn't seem to know how they got there, and the line suddenly goes silent. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, the dispatcher quickly traces the call and alerts the nearest police unit to respond immediately. 2. Tracing the call. As the 911 dispatcher listens intently, the call suddenly cuts out, leaving only eerie silence. Panic sets in. The child is alone, frightened, and possibly in danger. Quickly, the dispatcher works to trace the call's origin. The system pinpoints an unexpected location, an abandoned house on the outskirts of town, long thought to be unoccupied. The dispatcher relays the details to the nearest police unit. Officers are dispatched immediately, racing against time to reach the child before something worse happens. Police unit speeds through the darkened streets, sirens cutting through the quiet night. Dispatch informs them that the call came from an abandoned house, one with a history of eerie rumors and unexplained events. As they approach, the house looms ahead, its broken windows and weathered walls bathed in the flickering glow of their patrol car's headlights. The front yard is overgrown, and the structure itself looks unstable. The officers exchange uneasy glances. They aren't sure what they'll find inside: a lost child, a dangerous situation, or something far worse. With flashlights in hand, they cautiously step out of the car, ready for anything. The eerie arrival. The officers step cautiously toward the abandoned house, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. The front door is slightly ajar, creaking as the wind pushes against it. The air is thick with the scent of damp wood and decay. Inside, faint moonlight filters through broken windows, casting eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper. Dust lingers in the air, disturbed only by their movements. One officer calls out, "Police! Is anyone here?" Silence. Then a faint noise from deeper inside, a rustling sound, followed by what seems like a soft whimper. Guns drawn, the officers exchange tense glances before stepping inside, their boots echoing in the emptiness. Whatever or whoever is here, they are about to find out. Moving cautiously through the darkened house, the officers sweep their flashlights across the dust-covered floor and crumbling walls. The eerie silence is broken by a faint, trembling voice. "Hello? Is someone there?" Following the sound, they find a small figure curled up in the corner of an old room. A 4-year-old child sits on the cold wooden floor, clutching a torn blanket. Their wide eyes glisten with fear, and their tiny hands shake. One officer kneels, lowering his voice. "Hey there, buddy. We're here to help. What's your name?" The child hesitates, glancing toward the dark hallway behind them. Then, in a whisper, they say something chilling. "She told me not to open the door, but I got scared." The officers exchange wary glances. "Who told you that?" one asks. The officers exchange uneasy glances. Who is the lady in white? Could it be a caretaker or something else? One officer radios for paramedics while the other gently asks, "Where are your parents?" The child clutches the blanket tighter, shaking their head. "They left. A long time ago. I waited, but they never came back." Determined to find answers, the officers begin searching the house. They check each room, their flashlights illuminating abandoned furniture, dust-covered belongings, and faded photographs hanging on the walls. Everything looks undisturbed, as if no one has lived here for years. Yet, in the kitchen, 2 plates sit on the table, with fresh crumbs on them. Someone else has been here. Then, one officer notices something chilling: a set of footprints in the dust leading toward a locked door at the end of the hallway. Slowly, they reach for the handle. A chilling revelation. With a deep breath, one officer grips the doorknob and slowly turns it. The door creaks open, revealing a dark, narrow staircase leading to the basement. A damp, musty smell wafts up, sending a shiver down their spines. Flashlights cut through the darkness as they descend cautiously. At the bottom, they find old furniture covered in sheets, scattered belongings, and something far more unsettling: a faded family portrait hanging on the wall. The photo shows a couple holding a small child. The officers shine their lights on the face of the child in the picture. Their hearts pound. It's the same 4-year-old they just found upstairs. But the most chilling part? The date on the back of the photo is from 10 years ago. The officers exchange horrified glances. If the child in the picture is the same as the one they rescued, how is that possible? And covering the truth. The officers rush back upstairs, their minds racing. The child, who should be much older if the photo is accurate, sits quietly, eyes fixed on the floor. One officer kneels beside them. Hey, kiddo, do you know what year it is? The child hesitates, then whispers a date from a decade ago. A cold chill fills the air. Determined to find more answers, the officers check police records. What they uncover sends shivers down their spines. A missing persons report from 10 years ago. The parents in the photo vanished without a trace, and their child was never found. Yet, here the child sits, unchanged. No signs of aging, no explanation of where they've been. And then, in a trembling voice, the child finally speaks. I told you, the lady in white took care of me. Or survival? The officers feel a heavy silence settle over the room. One of them whispers, Who is the lady in white? The child glances toward the dark hallway and murmurs, She sings to me at night. She told me to stay here and wait for mommy and daddy. A cold draft moves through the house, sending chills down their spines. The officers exchange uneasy glances. Was this child somehow trapped in time, or was there a rational explanation? They sweep the house once more, searching for any sign of someone else living there. But apart from the fresh crumbs on the table and the child's presence, the house seems abandoned. Then an officer notices something strange, a white, flowing dress hanging on the back of a door. It looks old, covered in dust, yet it almost seems to move as if touched by an unseen hand. Suddenly, a whisper echoes through the room. He wasn't supposed to leave. The officers spin around, flashlights darting through the shadows. But the investigation continues. The eerie whisper fades, leaving only the sound of the officer's heavy breathing. The child clings to their blanket, eyes wide with fear. One officer quickly radios for backup, while the other carefully lifts the child, carrying them outside to safety. As soon as they step onto the porch, the temperature seems to rise, like they've crossed an invisible threshold. Inside, the house remains silent. No more whispers, no movement. Just the unsettling feeling that they were never truly alone. In the following days, investigators dig into the house's history. They uncover reports of a woman in white who once lived there, a grieving mother who lost her own child decades ago. Some say her spirit lingers, searching for a child to care for. But the biggest mystery remains. How did the 4-year-old survive for so long without aging? With no logical explanation, the case is left open. The child is placed in protective custody, but one officer can't shake the feeling that the lady in white is still watching, waiting. And somewhere, in the depths of that abandoned house, a door creaks open on its own. Unanswered questions. As the investigation continues, more questions arise than answers. The officers review security footage from nearby streets, hoping to see how the child arrived at the abandoned house. But there's nothing. No footage of anyone entering or leaving in months. Detectives interview locals, some of whom recall seeing lights flickering in the windows late at night, despite no electricity being connected to the house. Others claim they've heard a woman softly singing from inside. A forensic team examines the house and finds something disturbing in the basement, a small, old bed with neatly arranged toys covered in dust, as if someone had been waiting for a child to return. Meanwhile, the child is placed in a safe home, but strange things keep happening. Caretakers report that the child sometimes talks to someone unseen, laughing softly as if responding to a lullaby. One night, the child whispers to a social worker, She says I shouldn't have left. She's coming to take me home. And then the child vanishes. No signs of forced entry, no clues left behind, just a single white dress neatly folded on the bed.